So, some of you may be aware that for 4 years I had the great honor of serving as the 32nd Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But tonight, much more importantly, I'm a proud Bucks County resident and a proud resident of Richboro Township, and my wife, Nikki, and our son, my wife, Suzanne, and our son, Nikki, let's get that one right, since they're going to be here in a minute or two, are going to be with us as well, because this really, what we're doing here is something fundamentally American. The town hall, the ability for people to come and to talk to listen to, and to learn more about and from somebody who has stepped forward and offered themselves to greater public service is something that is uniquely American, and is something that I hope you're all very proud of, because I know that I am. And I've been given the opportunity to introduce two friends to my fellow Bucks Countyans. First and foremost, this gentleman here to my far right, the state chairman of the Republican Party, Val DeGiorgio. Val and I have been friends for longer than either one of us wants to admit, almost 35 years. And I can tell you that this man, who volunteers his time across this Commonwealth, is somebody who is himself a son of southeastern Pennsylvania, born and raised in South Philadelphia. Now he makes his home in nearby Chester County with his beautiful wife and his wonderful children. And he, in his own right, is quite accomplished professionally. He's quite an attorney. But for him, that wasn't enough. His personal success wasn't enough. He knew that in order for this dream, this holy experiment of Pennsylvania, to truly realize its potential, that he needed to get active. He needed to get involved. He started, like so many who are interested in public service, he started going door to door in his own neighborhood. And over time, people realized just what a great leader he is. And the fact that he is here today to address us and to answer some of your questions, I think is very special. So please, again, join me in thanking Val DeGiorgio for taking time away from his beautiful family. But let's face it, Val and I have been to enough gatherings to know that the person you really want to hear from and the person you really want to interact with is a guy named Scott Wagner. And I will tell you that I have known Scott Wagner perhaps not as long as Val, but the time that I have spent with him, I can tell you a couple of things without fear of contradiction. This is a man who cares passionately about this Commonwealth. This is a man who cares passionately about this nation. He too is a man who in his own right professionally is incredibly accomplished. But for him as well, that was not enough. You know, 8 years ago, I had an incredible privilege. And that privilege was to go out across our beautiful Commonwealth, from Erie to Andalusia and everywhere in between. And yes, you can get to Erie from here, trust me. And the one thing that struck me, regardless of where I went, was the overwhelming potential of Pennsylvania. And right now, I don't think we're realizing that potential. Folks, they don't call us the Keystone State for nothing. We are centrally located. We are perfectly positioned to lead the way in economic development and jobs. We are perfectly positioned to lead the way in world-class education for our children. We are perfectly positioned for every generation to come to look back on what it is that we did and smile and say thank you. But in order to get to that better Pennsylvania, in order to get to that brighter future, we are going to need somebody who says what he means and means what he says.
Amen.
We are going to need somebody somebody who understands that being a leader means taking the tough position and doing the things that we need to do and perhaps sometimes maybe don't want to do.
That's right.
We need Scott Wagner as our next governor. And that's why I hope all of you here tonight and everyone across Bucks County is proud of the fact that this is either the 529th or the 530th stop in the Wagner for Governor campaign. But when you could be elsewhere with family, with friends, he's here tonight to talk to you about his vision of Pennsylvania. An exciting vision it is. His vision for Bucks County. His vision not only for us, but for our children. I'm excited that Scott Wagner is here with us tonight. Again, ask you to join me in welcoming him and give him a big Bucks County welcome. To the microphone. Again, as I said, a dear friend, not only of me, but of all of southeastern Pennsylvania, the state chairman of the Republican Party of Pennsylvania, Val DeGiorgio.
Hey. Governor, you weren't supposed to tell him how old we were. He always makes that mistake. I'll be brief because Jim Cawley said it all. I've been waiting a long time for a candidate like Scott Wagner. Jim and I started knocking on doors 35 years ago. We look for a couple things. One is how hard that candidate worked, and I can tell you without equivocation that Scott Wagner is the hardest working candidate I've ever seen. He's everywhere. He's the Energizer Bunny. You're going to see that tonight. The other thing that attracts me to Scott, and I was so proud when we endorsed him overwhelmingly at Republican State Committee this year, is I've always wanted to see, as somebody who grew up in the streets of South Philadelphia, a candidate who was willing to take our message of opportunity, of jobs, of prosperity to every neighborhood in this state. And Scott Wagner goes to Reading, he goes to Lancaster, he goes to those boroughs and towns upstate. He goes into West Philadelphia and North Philadelphia to take that message. And it's important because we need to not only talk, preach to the choir, so to speak, we need to get out and take our message like evangelicals to every voter in this Commonwealth. And he's doing that. And he knows one thing, Harrisburg is broken, it's going to take a businessman to fix it. So you're going to hear some great ideas tonight, but you're also going to see a man of great passion, of great depth, and I've never seen someone more empathetic about the plight of Pennsylvanians, workers, families, seniors, our children who are languishing in substandard schools, as I've seen in Scott Wagner. So it's a great honor for me to be here on behalf of the Republican Party and to introduce to you all the next governor from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Scott Wagner.
I think it's appropriate, gentlemen, you're veterans, we have a beautiful flag. I think it's appropriate that we pledge to our flag. Please join us. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So I'm curious, we have 3 proud veterans up front. How many other veterans do we have in the audience? Thank you for being here. Jim, thank you for the introduction. Val, thank you for being here. Val's actually going to join me tonight on stage. Jeff Bartos had another event that he had to attend. So Val, with other congressional races going on and statewide races, questions for Val to help me out on, he's on top of the games on what's happening in those races, so Val's here. Listen, I'm honored to be here tonight, and this is event 531 for me this year. This is an event, and I just had an event over at the Associated Builders and Contractors in Montgomery County, met with a group over there. And so, you know, I'm everywhere around Pennsylvania. Last year it was about 380. It's important that I go around the state and meet people and learn what the issues are. There are a lot of issues in Pennsylvania, but there are a lot of opportunities. And you know, you can see the glass is half full or half empty. You know, I'm a guy who wants to fill the glass up. And I think that's the opportunity tonight to have dialogue. You know, we talk about, you know, many of the things and issues in Pennsylvania, and my number one issue, an area that I'm focusing on, and we're seeing it in our polling, is jobs and the economy. Number one, we have to reduce burdensome regulations on developers and job creators, and we have to lower taxes. We have one of the highest corporate net income taxes, and that's keeping businesses from coming to Pennsylvania and forcing some businesses to look at other areas. We need to streamline permit wait times. And I believe we need to have welfare reform. And we need to help people that are for public assistance get gainful employment, help them have a purposeful life and have them be part of our, you know, economy as we move forward. I also tell people, and this is the real mission, to protect your paycheck and make sure that your paycheck increases, and make sure that Harrisburg does not take more money from you than it needs to take. And it takes a lot right now. And how we're going to protect your paycheck is, number one, we're going to go to zero-based budgeting when I'm governor. We are going to balance our checkbook. It has not been balanced in 35 years. And we need to do that. And as I travel around the state, I've heard this issue from when I ran my Senate campaign back in 2013-14. I heard it. Everywhere I go, I hear about school taxes on everyone's home. Seniors are being pushed out of their homes because of school taxes. Everywhere you go, at the beginning of the month, if you go to, it doesn't matter whether you go to Lackawanna County, Luzerne County, whether you go to Stroudsburg, Monroe County, every month the newspaper starts out with hundreds and hundreds of sheriff sales. And then once bankruptcies take place, but I'm talking, I was in Mount Pocono in Monroe County a month and a half ago, and there were over 300 sheriff sales starting out. I've made a pledge, and I'm making a pledge to the people of Pennsylvania. You're going to see mailers, you're going to see TV ads. And it says, "Dear fellow Pennsylvania, if you vote for me on Tuesday, November 6th, and I become governor of Pennsylvania, I will eliminate the school taxes on your home." We have a skilled labor crisis out there. We have an opportunity to really focus on, you know, training more people. And we're going to talk about education in a moment. But one of the big troubling areas, and I'm hearing it and seeing it everywhere, and I've been involved in this effort since 2014, shortly after I joined the Senate, is the breathtaking opioid and heroin crisis. And we need to have a lot of attention on this. We just don't need a state of emergency. We need, and I will have an emergency summit within 30 days of winning the general election, probably in early December. And I'm going to bring in probably 700 people, district attorneys, law enforcement, treatment people. We're going to have a major summit, even before I'm sworn in. Because everywhere I go, everybody has a solution. Because I ask you, what are your thoughts? They have solutions. We need to bring everybody together for a very emergency, large, you know, banging out one day, start at 8 o'clock, go to 6 o'clock, and come up with all the solutions that everybody has. And then the afternoon I'm sworn in, we're going to take action on those solutions and ideas. And, you know, we are kidding ourselves pushing people through 30-day rehabs when it actually takes an average of 270 days of treatment. It's a big problem. There's a great facility in Berks County, the Caring Foundation. If you ever have an opportunity to go there and spend time and go through an educational seminar, it's amazing what they're doing and what you can learn. But we need to have more education in the schools, and it needs to start as soon as a child goes into daycare. I believe that as soon as a child goes into daycare, the whole way through high school and into college, but our responsibility is daycare through 12th grade. Needles are bad, drugs are bad, drug dealers are bad. They need to hear this. Yeah. And, you know, frankly, we have a governor right now that is promoting opioids being prescribed. The governor, and when I was in the Senate, we had Senate Bill 936, which I was a co-sponsor. The governor vetoed that bill, and that bill would have allowed for drug formularies to be used instead of opioids being prescribed. But the fact is that Governor Wolf took $1.2 million from a pharmacy PAC, and that pharmacy PAC is the product of pharmacies, and those pharmacies are owned by a large law firm in Philadelphia, and you can read the story, and also by doctors who treat injured workers that have workers' comp injuries. This governor he's promoting the prescribing of opioids. To think that last year in 2014, drop boxes around Pennsylvania collected 3 million pounds of unused prescription drugs. I would tell you, we probably could fill this whole building up 4 times with 3 million pounds and maybe even more. And that's probably 20% of the problem in Pennsylvania, and probably another 20% went down toilets because people are flushing, unused prescription drugs down toilets. So this is a huge, huge issue. The other thing that we have to really start focusing on is the mental health crisis. It's huge and it's big, big, big. And that is a whole area that is going to require more resources, and that ties into the heroin opioid crisis. Talk about school safety. School safety is going to be a huge priority. I believe that every school needs a single point of entry. We need scanning systems, and we're going to crack down on knowing what comes into each and every building. And when you talk about mental health, I'm very, very troubled by the rate of veteran suicide. I'm very troubled by that. And to think that, I also had a personal experience. I had a brother that was 6 years younger than I am. And he had alcohol issues. We didn't realize how bad, but there were some mental health, depression issues. My brother took his life 2 years ago. So I've experienced it. And our family, and I personally struggle, almost every night when I go to bed, I question, what could I have done? And why did he do what he did? But to think that Pennsylvania's suicide rate has increased 34% since 1995 is not acceptable, and it is very, very, very troubling. So let's talk about education. I think education is potentially our greatest opportunity to solve a lot of problems and seize opportunities. I talked about a skilled labor crisis, 200 to 400,000 skilled labor positions open. I can tell you right now, you can go to a trade school and get a 2-year certificate or degree in machining, welding, electrical, carpentry, and you'll start out at probably $85,000 in a lot of areas, and down here it might even be more. And the trade unions down here in this area have some unbelievable training programs. And so we have to focus on that not every child is college material. And there was a lady that approached my daughter a week ago and said, your father shouldn't say that, that's not politically correct. Well, the truth is the truth. And so I'm not here to be politically correct, I'm here to be honest. So we really need to focus on education. And last week, I announced, Jeff was with me, Jeff Bartos, I announced an education plan where we are going to put an additional $1 billion, with a B, into the education system when I'm governor. And how that's going to work, $700 million of the billion will go into the current funding formula, because there are schools that do need more money. And then we have 2 block grants, $150 million each. And the first one is called the RISE block grant, which provides access and additional funding for schools that implement evidence-based additional programs, STEM programs, vocational programs, other programs that we desperately need. Then there's going to be another block grant, and that's going to be Teach to the Top. And this will provide $150 million to reward and retain our best and brightest educators, which means that we can give them bonuses, and the district will be able to apply for block grant money and reward those top performers. We're also going to create a remedial line that is $25 million that schools can apply to implement programs to assist struggling teachers. And we have to focus on these areas, but $700 million will go through the funding formula, and 2 block grants of $150 million each, 300, that's $1 billion. And I'm here to tell you tonight that we're going to do this, and I am not going to raise taxes. It is not going to cost the taxpayers additional money. Because how we're going to do it, we're going to zero-based budget. We're going to tighten our belts. The waste, fraud, and abuse that I've seen in Harrisburg and not balancing our checkbook is breathtaking. And I know we can do this. And between these 4 funding mechanisms, you know, students and teachers are going to gain from this plan. And so let's open it up to those of you in the audience, and let's talk about what's on your mind. I'm excited to be here. I didn't have coffee. I had coffee in Erie the other night to really get me cranked up. And I got home, or I got back to the hotel, and at 1 o'clock I'm laying in bed. From 1 to 3 I'm watching CSI and Law and Order and all those shows. And you know why I love those shows? Because they solve crimes in an hour. So going to Harrisburg is easy. So with that, we're going to move the podium out of the way. And I don't know how we're going to handle the microphone here, but we're going to move the podium out of the way. And Jeff and I, Val and I are going to become a little bit more relaxed. We're going to sit in the chairs. The stools have been
well, I don't really need the microphone. Yeah, everybody else can hear me. My name is Milo Morris. I'm a resident of Bucks County, and we just recently came on board the Bucks County Republican Committee as a coordinator. And my question, sir, is we have a sanctuary city right down the road here. I'd be really interested to hear how your plan to challenge that would be, what that would look like.
well. Number one, I am not in favor of any sanctuary cities, and I will do everything. Not allow sanctuary cities. I think what you're asking me is potentially more of a legal question on the methods, but I will tell you that as I travel throughout Philadelphia, and I talk to people in the city of Philadelphia, especially in the high poverty areas, the urban areas, I ask the question, what do you think of the sanctuary city status that you have here in Philadelphia? They don't like it. And they're very upset with the mayor who dances outside of his office and thinks it's a great thing. So whatever I can do within my power, we're going to end sanctuary cities.
Thank you.
Yes. Hi, how are you? They're coming around the corner.
Jill Benders from Bucks County. I wondered if your Keep the Schools Safe is going to include the implementation of armed guards.
Yes, the answer to that is yes. I believe that every school should have an armed guard. Without going into great detail, number one, our schools need to be safe, and we're going to crack down, and we're going to have zero tolerance, zero tolerance. And you know, listen, if you go to an office building, we're not far from Philadelphia. If you go into any major office building in downtown Philadelphia, you have to sign in. You have to have ID. They take your picture. They put the picture on a tag. And there are buildings you have to go through. You have to run your briefcase or whatever through scanners. We do this in the courthouses. We're going to crack down. Absolutely, I do not want, on my watch as governor, to have anything happen to a single student in the state of Pennsylvania. And another step that I'm going to do is that I intend to reverse the moratorium on the death penalty within the first 48 hours. That may be controversial for some, but I have a personal story and a personal recollection. There's a gentleman sitting on death row, his name is Mark Spots. And I've talked about Mark Spots repeatedly. Mark Spots in 1995 was in upstate Pennsylvania, north of somewhere around Sunbury, and ended up killing his brother in the kitchen of their family home. He took his brother's car, went down towards Harrisburg, and on his way towards Harrisburg, he carjacked the car. This was the first of three. The first car had a lady in the car. He shot and killed her, took the car, went towards Harrisburg, carjacked the second car, and shot and killed another innocent lady. He then came to York, Pennsylvania, and he carjacked the car with a lady by the name of Penny Gunn. Penny Gunn would have been 64 years old because I'm 62. He shot and killed her 2 miles from where I live on a rural road. And when he left, he ran over her body with her car. Mark Spots does not deserve to live. He's been sitting on death row since 1995.
My name is Courtney Shire, resident of Bucks County. So I don't want to bust your chops because I like a lot of your ideas, but you talked about getting rid of school taxes, but also implementing $1 billion into the school programs. And I'm just curious, are you suggesting that trimming the fat is the only way you're going to pay for that, or do you have other solutions?
It's Courtney.
Yeah.
Courtney, by the way, I like your slogan of woman's place is in the House and the Senate. I like that. Listen, and I'm glad you asked the question. I was a co-sponsor of Senate Bill 76. 76, the provisions of 76 would take the sales tax from 6 to 7% and would raise the personal income tax. Number one, I believe we need to tighten our belts, and we need, and I'm not, you will never hear me use the word cut. You'll hear me use manage. That's what I do in my businesses. People that go in and into businesses and run large businesses, or I'll give you an idea. This is a great example. There's a company called General Electric, GE, which is going through one of the major turnarounds. It's a company that would have gone under if, a new CEO had not been appointed. And what he did last year, he took 90 days, he visited every GE operation around the world. And along the way, he made decisions. And that's exactly what I'm going to do in the state of Pennsylvania. So we need to zero-based budget. We need to balance our checkbook. Senate Bill 76 is if that bill comes to my desk, I will sign it. But there are some other options. The other options are, there are many things that we don't tax in Pennsylvania that are taxed in other states. And some you would never think about. So tonight, if you go to a bar or restaurant in Pennsylvania, I had a beer distributor call me the summer my first summer in the Senate, 2014. He said, Scott, come on down here, I want to show you something. And he was able to obtain a listing of every case of beer that every restaurant or bar, or anybody that had a restaurant liquor license in the state of Pennsylvania purchased in 2013. So he knew how many million cases were purchased, or hundreds, thousands. And he said, Scott, when you go to a bar and you order a Coors Light, the Coors Lights say $4. There's no tax on it. But if you go to any other state in the country, there's tax on the retail side. So when the bar owner goes to the beer distributor and buys a case of Coors Light, let's hypothetically say they pay $1 a bottle, there's 24 in a case, that's $24. He pays sales tax of 6% on the $24. And then when he retails the beer, he doesn't charge sales tax on the other end. And he said, Scott, if you were to exempt the sales tax on the wholesale side and you charged it on the retail side, it was like $210 million just for beer in bar restaurants. And that doesn't include wine, that doesn't include spirits. That's $200 million. We own and operate in Pennsylvania 600 liquor stores. Those liquor stores operationally lose $300 million a year. And we've been losing money for years. Now, we make money on the wholesale side, the big operation, the wholesale warehouses, but we have a monopoly on liquor. In the state of Pennsylvania, we lose money. We need to be out of this business. And there's a lot of opportunities. I mean, I could see beer distributors selling wine and spirits in their stores. They're down here, you're starting to see more of the big stores. But I have a lot of revenue ideas in addition to, managing ideas. And for example, we have routinely every year probably about 3,500 state employees that retire, okay? There is no way that we will ever find 3,500 state employees retiring because of the labor crisis. So we have to start thinking and be more innovative. So let's say we have 3,500 employees retire, and we only hire, say, 1,500, 1,700. But I can tell you, I'm not overly computer literate. I'm 62 years old, and I'll confess that I'm nowhere near as efficient. But I have an assistant that is 35 years old, my one company. She could replace 5 of me. And I'm not suggesting, but I'm just saying she's very much more efficient. So look at your kids today, your children. I mean, they pull their phone out, man, they have more information. So there's an opportunity for us to become more efficient through tools and technology, and using the young people today, the millennials are off the charts when it comes to, tools and technology. So I have a lot of ideas in generating revenue and also managing. And a combination of everything, we're going to find the money. But I can tell you that our governor, Tom Wolf, did not sign a budget for 3 years. The House and Senate were responsible for getting money into the school districts, not the governor, because he didn't sign a budget. But over the last 4 years, the legislature was able to get $2 billion into the schools. The Philadelphia Inquirer just did a story this past weekend on Sunday. It was in the Sunday paper. $1.3 billion of that $2 billion just went to pensions. And Governor Wolf, when he came into office in 2015, we sent a pension reform bill, which would put everybody in a 401k after a specific date of hire. He vetoed the bill. So there's a lot of heavy lifting, but at the end of the day, education is so critical, so critical. But there's many methods that we're going to find. You're welcome.
Scott, we're right here, right?
Hi, Mr. Wagner. I'm Vanessa Fiore from Bucks County also, and Jimmy Clennon and I have been going door to door for you, and of course everybody. And we've been hitting the blue-collar neighborhood of Morrisville, and have been approached by union workers who say they don't really like your policies. So I was wondering if you could tell me what I could tell them to encourage them to vote for you.
Well, Vanessa, thank you for the question. Listen, the bottom line is that my issue, people are saying Wagner hates unions. I don't dislike unions. And there are a lot of trade unions, and down in this area in the southeast and all over Pennsylvania. Listen, I built a recycling facility in 2014. We used an IBEW electrical contractor to wire our facility. It was $1 million contract. Why? Because they were able to send in 35 electricians and wire the whole facility within 90 days and get us up and running. So, I have a tremendous amount of respect for the trade unions, but the union that I have an issue with is the PSEA, which is the teachers union, Pennsylvania State Education Commission. Why do I have a problem? Because they have 180,000 school teachers. They collect about $800 a year in dues, and it's $150 million, and it's through automatic dues deduction. How'd you like that? Is anybody here a business owner? How'd you like to have a business where you don't send any bills out and you don't have to have a receivables department, the money just shows up? Well, that's the PSEA. And they use a tremendous amount of money, of their union dues money, to lobby and influence campaigns. And the PSEA is also a member of the NEA, which is the National Education Association. I just received a magazine, their monthly magazine, and bang, I opened up somebody sent to me with a tab. I opened it up, I'm in the center along with other governors, and they're torpedoing Betsy DeVos's education plan and her agenda. But what's interesting is, as I travel around, I'm trying to figure out, do the teachers think that they work for the unions, or do they think they work for the taxpayers and the students and the parents? I'm trying to figure that out, because the PSEA believes that every member is their employee and they work for the union. And more troubling, and this is where we're going to have issues, but the NEA receives, the PSEA is a member of the NEA. So our state teachers union pays to the national union. There was a gentleman by the name of Albert Shanker, who was the, general counsel, executive director, or CEO of the NEA. At a conference in 2012, he made a statement: until children pay dues, we don't represent them. So, and go on our website and look up Albert Shanker, NEA. This is what he said. So, you know what, I thought we were focused on our children, but I can tell you right now that we have to change the mindset. Listen, there are a lot of great teachers, but I'm also finding something out very interesting. A lot of teachers that are coming out to our events, to our rallies. I've had an opportunity to meet with several dozen teachers on different occasions and groups, and they talk about all the testing in the schools, they talk about all the mandates, and they talk about how they're frustrated. And so we have to look at reducing a lot of the mandates. This testing, what I'm being told by teachers, is the children are very anxious, and the teachers are anxious, because if the students don't do well, the teachers are rated on the students' performance. It's almost like a hotel, you know, survey, so to speak. So, but at the end of the day, and also teachers are being told that I'm going to take their pensions away, and that's simply not true. And over the years, when I was in the Senate, I had probably 4 or 5 different occasions. I had retired teachers that came to my office and said, "We just wanted to come and see you, and we just want you to know we can't afford to have our pensions taken away, and please don't take our pensions away." And I'm like, "Where are you hearing this crap?" And so they're hearing it from the unions and the association. Listen, at the end of the day, I didn't create this pension mess, but I'm telling you something, I'm going to figure out how to solve it. And that's what we have to do. This is another, when you talk about teachers need to understand that I'm probably the best thing that has come along in a long time to solve this problem. Courtney, you talk about me finding money. And this is a fact that people have, because I'm dealing with a really attentive crowd here, and I know you're concerned about education and how I'm going to do it. But in 2016, there was $49.2 billion in the PSERS pension fund, Pennsylvania School Employee Retirement. That's the school teachers and higher education folks. And then there's SERS, state employee. $49.2 billion in that fund. The benchmark goal that the money managers were supposed to deliver was 7.5%. Do you know what the performance was? 1.29%. That's 6.2%. 6% less on $50 billion, that's $3 billion. That's $3 billion right there. And we've allowed this underperformance, but we had no problems paying the money managers $416 million if you were a money manager managing your money, I hate to say what you do to them, I really can't imagine it, because it'll be on TV tomorrow. But bottom line is, these are the kind of things, it's like nobody cares. But I will tell you that the teachers are going to get what they're promised. Every state employee is going to get what they're promised. I'm not taking pensions away from state police or corrections officers. Listen, Jeff Bartos and I are the cleanup guys, and we're going to figure it out. So, there's more to... And listen, every time there's a large project that is built in Pennsylvania, guess who builds it? Trades union labor. And so, I would love to attract a car manufacturing plant to Erie, Pennsylvania. I'd love to get like probably like Nissan or Honda, one of the non-American-based companies, and get them to spend $800 million in Erie, Pennsylvania. But you know what? It ain't going to happen. You want to know why? Now, that building, that facility would be built by trades labor union members. That would be a great thing. But you know why they're not coming here? Because they're going to ask me to guarantee that they will never be unionized at their plant. Because they're getting those guarantees down south because they're right to work states. So I'm not here to be politically correct. I'm here to tell you the truth. I want to grow this economy. And as I grow the economy, I'm a business guy, and if I can grow the economy, it means that everybody is working more, earning more, and that's it doesn't matter whether you're union or non-union. That's what this is all about. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Juliet, and I actually have a question for Mr. DiGiorgio. The Democratic candidates in Southeast Pennsylvania are so radical. Where is the future of the Democratic Party heading?
Funny, thanks. We had a press conference on that today, talking about socialism. So the Democratic Party has nominated 4 socialist candidates, Democrats, Socialists of America. 2 of them here in southeastern Pennsylvania. London and Delaware County, beat a trade union candidate. By the way, they're beating trade union candidates to do this. And she basically has said it's going to take revolution on the streets to bring capitalism to its knees. And that's their agenda. On top of that, the Democrat Lieutenant Governor candidate, John Fetterman, has basically campaigns with Bernie Sanders. He's proposed programs that are going to take about $20 billion in tax increases. You know, he wants free education for all. He wants free health care for all. They don't seem to know on the left the free means the taxpayers have to pay for it. So what we're seeing is a leftward lurch in the Democratic Party. And that candidate, Kristen Seal in Delaware County, you know, she'll talk about Marx on her webpage. So it's up to us to educate, especially the youth, about what socialism really means. And I'm proud to say in Pennsylvania, we've quadrupled the size of our young Republicans in the last year. Those young Republicans are all over the state educating their peers about the evils of communism and the virtues of the free market. And it's funny, that Congresswoman candidate in Brooklyn, you know, she's there with, it was a great meme. And there she is with her socialist iPhone, her socialist Starbucks, you know, socialist Starbucks coffee and socialist. So all the commissars in the world sending out all the orders that they want, telling an ordered economy what to do, could never create what the Apple did with that iPhone. And that's our message. That's what we need to get out, because millennials especially are very distrustful of government at all levels. So the question, if you're that distrustful of government, why do you want to give them universal power over your life? And that's up to us to get that message out. We're doing it at the state party, and you know, I'm optimistic about having that debate. Thank you for your question.
There's something that is taking place that I'm delighted to see. There are a lot of millennials that are coming out. They're getting engaged. And listen, my daughter's here. She's 25, and there isn't anything that's free. There is no such thing as a free lunch. And I think you have two movements. You have Turning Point USA. You have Walkaway. There are a lot of millennials that are finally saying, this is not what we're all about. And so you are taking the time. You're a very intelligent generation. You're taking the time to learn, you know, about the complexities. But I'm an old guy. I'm 62. I'm just going to tell you, we're out of runway. And when you're out of one runway, the plane crashes. It's not a good thing. So thank you for being here. And I think that it is so critical that the millennials, you know, when you come out of school, you know, become engaged and be here and ask questions. Thank you.
Scott, we're going to go to the back.
And so Governor Rendell signed a contract for a statewide radio system. And it was to be administered by the state police. In 2016, and this has become the infamous failed radio system, in 2016, the state terminated that contract after 10 years. We wasted somewhere between $850 million and $1 billion on a statewide radio system that does not work. If you stop a state trooper today, that trooper, if you happen to see a trooper in a convenience store, ask them, trooper, I'm just curious, how many radios do you have in the car? He'll have at least two. He or she will have at least two, and maybe three. $1 billion. Nobody cared. Nobody's screaming about it. But I'm going to be screaming about it. Labor and industry wasted almost $500 million on a software upgrade so people would be able to go online and apply for unemployment benefits. It was a failed system. We wasted $500 million. And we learned through an audit by the Auditor General that labor and industry is still running on a COBOL platform. It was put in 1958. I was 3 years old. And so I see this every single, the list goes on. And you know, I could, if you have another hour, I can give you another 20 examples. But the bottom line is we don't operate efficiently. And those are two of the greatest examples. That's $1.5 billion right there. So we'll take maybe the gentleman here in the front, somebody had a question.
Hi, my name's Rob Gleason, and this question's for Val. Okay, down here, we're in tight races all over the place. One of them being our congressman, Brian Fitzpatrick. And I think that he's going to need a lot of help to get him. And I haven't seen too much from the PA GOP or the Bucks County GOP of what's going on with Brian. Because we can't lose that seat.
Yeah, well, Brian is done a great job of creating his own brand. I think Brian will spin in storm you might see in southeastern Pennsylvania. But I'll also say this, the Bucks County GOP, I talk to Pat Popper at least once a week, your chairman, and she's very involved in that race. As a matter, and as far as the state GOP and the RNC, we have 31 field staffers all across the state. We're using a $250 million investment in data that the RNC has put together. It has every voter on the database, 3,000 data points attached to it. We've got dozens of volunteers in southeastern Pennsylvania alone trained on that app, and they're using it to help the congressional candidates first and foremost. That's the RNC and the state GOP's mission, to help these congressional candidates. So we are involved on the ground with trained, paid staffers and volunteers, helping not just Brian, but the whole ticket. So we are very heavily invested in that race. Or if there's something more you think we should be doing, after you want to talk to me afterwards, I'm happy to have that conversation. So we care very much about Brian's victory.
Good. My name is George Shia from Richboro, and I don't know if you, I'm sure everybody knows, but our state is the highest tax state in gas tax. So between the state and federal, I think we're at 71 or 74 cents. Did you give it any thought to rolling back some of those taxes for that program?
Well, I'm not campaigning on repealing the gas tax, but here's the fact, that it is about 54 to 60 cents for an automobile. If I operate several fleets of trucks and we burn diesel fuel, the tax on a gallon of diesel fuel is 99.1 cents, okay? And so between 2 and 3 fleets, I run several hundred trucks. And I have the ability to blend that pricing in to our customers. And I say this with reservation, so don't throw a rotten tomato at me when I say this. I'm okay with the fuel tax because we have very substandard roads and bridges. What I have an issue is, I don't mind paying my fair share of fuel taxes. By damn, we better have good roads. And we have more potholes in Pennsylvania than I've ever seen. We have more trash than I feel pretty comfortable saying this, that at least one time a week between 3 fleets of trucks, several hundred trucks, I have one truck that is in a front-end alignment shop. And a front-end alignment shop is charging somewhere between $750 and $1,000 to front-end align a truck, and if parts are needed. Has to do with the substandard roads. I mean, there are parts of Pennsylvania, there are 10-inch potholes. I've measured them, I've stopped, I've done Facebook live videos with tractor trailers going by on Saturday mornings. And if you have a car today, I don't know if anybody in this room has ever had a tire punctured and a rim ruined because you hit a pothole. So the bottom, my first focus is that by damn we better be spending the money in the right area, and we better be getting better roads and bridges. But one of the issues we have that wasn't dealt with when the fuel tax was raised back in 2014 is we still fund the state police operations out of the motor fuels fund. That's a problem. We need to move the state police out of that fund, and that money needs to be specific for roads and bridges, period. But also, I have to tell you this, and this is back to, I'm not going to be politically correct when I say this, and I'm going to be honest, I'm going to tell you the facts. If you go to Maryland and you license your car, it's $135 for 2 years. It's $67.50, and that's for a certain weight class of a light car. And when you go up, you could be driving a car and paying $300 a year, or a pickup truck. If you go to Virginia and you buy a car, I think the plate might be $60 or $80. It's not outrageous, but you pay 6% sales tax on the car when you buy the car, and you pay a 6% personal property tax. So it's 12%. So I think I'm a big guy. I want to know every single tax that we have in Pennsylvania, and I compare it to other states. I look at different fees. But I can tell you right now, our roads are in the worst condition ever. Down here, there's a tremendous amount of, if you look at down here, you have a lot of congestion because of construction. And there's a lot of opportunities, and I can tell you, I hear from the heavy highway contractors all the time on ways to do things faster and better. But PennDOT is standing in the way in many ways, and so is DEP. The permitting streamlining process is going to change. But I'm going to tell you something. As you drive around parts of Pennsylvania, just look at how much trash is out there, and just look at how much grass, has trash in it, and how high the grass is. This is what we're supposed to get. We're supposed to get value for the money we spend. And I'm telling you, that's going to change, in my watch. So, thank you.
Salary in the back.
Yeah, in light of that, how efficient do you think PennDOT is with all the money they receive, since they're responsible for taking care of these potholes and so forth?
Well, I'm not going to take a shot at PennDOT, but I'm going to take a shot at PennDOT. Okay? Listen, PennDOT can operate more efficiently and a lot better. But the funny thing happens. I'm a blue collar guy, grew up on a farm, and I talk to a lot of PennDOT people that are on the ground. The guys driving the trucks, the low level people. You'd be shocked at how much just waste and mismanagement the low level people tell me is going on in PennDOT. And the problem you have the secretary of PennDOT, and then you have the deputy secretaries, and then you have the next level bureaucrats who've been there forever. And everything it's their way, and there's a certain level of speed. I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity to make PennDOT more efficient. And I'll be honest with you, there are a lot of areas, a lot of roads in Pennsylvania are kept clean, or supposed to be kept clean by PennDOT. Sweepers out, mowing the grass, picking up of trash. I believe that should be privatized. I think you should bid. For example, I live in York, Pennsylvania. So I think from I-83, if you drive up from Baltimore on I-83, as soon as you get the Maryland line, there should be a bid that a contractor or someone, I don't know who it is, there are lots of companies out there that would do this, that would bid to take care of sweeping, mowing the grass, repairing guide rails, taking care of any kind of repairs or maintenance on that stretch of road up the whole way up to the I-81, 83 split. They could do it a lot more efficient. And potentially that same company would do the snow removal. Because I can tell you the other problem that PennDOT is facing, PennDOT's also facing a challenge hiring people too. I think around the fall, PennDOT attempts to hire 3,500 part-time drivers. There's no such thing as a part-time driver. You just can't find them. So there's an opportunity for heavy highway contractors or a contractor that has equipment that they would use in the for example, from March until November for that contractor, and then during the winter months, a lot of times that equipment is parked. There's huge opportunity for efficiency. Huge.
Back there.
Hi.
How are you?
Thank you for coming. I'm Julie Kalita. I work in early intervention services, and I've been working as a social worker for the past 30 years. And I'm awesome to hear that you want to work on the opioid, because I think everyone in this room has probably lost someone. I work with mental health, I work with mental retardation, IDD. And part of our problem is we have high turnover rates because of the salaries. They want to have everybody have a college education. We have people with master's degrees, and we could probably go work at McDonald's and get paid the same amount of money, but we all love our job. That's why we're there, and that's why I've stayed for 30 years. So I was just wondering if you had any plans to work on, there's lots of money in the program, but there isn't enough money for the salaries.
I appreciate you being here, and thank you for what you do, and especially having spent 30 years doing what you're doing. At the end of the day, you're in an area that we have. I hear about the high turnover, and I go to a lot of counties, and I just go to a lot of agencies throughout Pennsylvania. We got to solve this problem. Now, I will tell you that, and I'm just going to tell you a quick story. I have one obsession in my company, and that's safety. I don't care about anything. I don't care about profits. I care about safety. And if we started an obsession in Pennsylvania that we were obsessed with, it is the health and welfare of people. I don't know the exact answer, but better lifestyle related, and we focused on that, the payoff would be huge. And so we have to have people, in those positions, and they have to be paid well. And if you have somebody, and there has to be high turnover because of burnout. I think that if you deal with, and there has to be, it's like You know, I had the opportunity to ride 2 weeks ago with a patrol car in Philadelphia for 2 hours. And we were all over Kensington, Fishtown. And I asked the sergeant that I was with, I said, I just have to ask you this, he's 44 years old. Do you ever get depressed? He said, you know, we're just sort of numb to it. And I think there's, you know, there has to be a high turnover because of pay, you know, because of, you know, just dealing with the issues. But I can tell you, there's also a lot of people that are very passionate, and they believe in making a difference, and they're helping people. And we have to figure a method to pay people better. We need to find the money to do it, and we also need to revamp and look at all those programs and making sure that they're as efficient as possible and they're delivering the service. But right now, the mental health issue, if you attempted to, you know, get in to see a counselor today because of the overload in a lot of areas, you're going to wait. It could be weeks or months. And so what people are doing is they're taking action to harm themselves, and they're going to an emergency room, and then they're in that system, and that costs 5 times more than it would to better compensate counselors. So it's a big issue, and I'm familiar with it. So, and we will, trust me, that's a big area. That ties into the mental health here.
Hi, my name is Arthur. I'm from Huntington Valley, and I'm not very politically correct either. My taxes are $15,800. I want to start holding both Republican, Democrat, teachers, unions, teachers, everybody accountable for this failed system. You know, they take a 17-minute moment of silence and everybody walks out from the school with signs that are against guns. How's that correct? I mean, liberalism has run rampant in this country. These people will walk over our dead children to give an illegal immigrant a voter registration card. Term limits. Val, I want to thank you for your service. I've seen your Facebook page, and I've seen people beat you up with a lot of rhetoric, and it takes a big man. But here's another question. Your opponent, I'm looking at his campaign contribution. He takes from everyone $5 million, $6 million from out-of-state groups. I don't care about somebody not from this state. I care about the people that live here. Unions, pharmaceutical companies, like you said, it's ridiculous. These guys are the biggest hypocrites and nobody addresses it, not the media, not anybody. You know, it's funny. He could run a smear campaign on you, put a truck out here to criticize you, put a billboard up, but he can't debate you.
Yeah.
Okay? You're self-funding, you're doing a lot on your own. And it's about taking care of people anymore. I don't see people, I don't see sexual proclivities, I don't see color, I don't see anything. I see people. And the left is an ugly group of people today. And I'm tired of it. And everybody's got to wake up and vote, because if we don't, we're going to lose this country. Thank
you. You're being honest. It's like, I'm not interested in being politically correct. I'm going to be honest. And your honesty coming here tonight and saying honest things is exactly right. Listen, you know, we talk about, I believe you mentioned immigration. Listen, the immigration system is broken in Pennsylvania, or excuse me, broken nationwide in this country, and it's affecting Pennsylvania. You know, I watched the other evening when, you know, it was revealed that the young lady, the college student in Iowa, who was 20 years old, was murdered by an undocumented immigrant. How can this be happening? And you know, it is, and there are other instances, and you're talking about a lot of things, and this is stuff that we never talked about before. And I think that, you know, you talk about term limits. I am in favor of term limits, and I believe that, I also believe, and this is my opinion, that I think anybody running for the U.S. Congress and anybody running for a state house seat here in Pennsylvania should have a 4-year term. This running every 2 years is crazy. Yeah. They should have a 4-year term, and I believe there should be a term limit of 12 years. The governor and lieutenant governor are term limited 8 years. I think 12 years is enough, and I'm in full favor of that. But what you're talking about all the issues, and it's about time we start having honest discussions. I'll be honest with you, I'm troubled. We talk about the schools. Listen, I came here this evening and I see these 3 veterans sitting in the front, and I see this flag, just without hesitation. And something else that bothers me, and we all see this, and I'm just telling you things that I see and hear. I'm watching the NBC Evening News on the 4th of July at 6:30, Lester Holt. There was a survey done, I believe Gallup did the survey, and they wanted to know, they surveyed Americans and wanted to know whether they were proud to be an American. You know that only 47% of Americans are proud to be an American? I'm sorry. And you know what? They went to NYU and they interviewed, I believe, 6 college students. Not a single one was proud. You know what? Gentlemen, thank you for your service. And other veterans here, I believe that children in schools, whether they're in kindergarten, I don't care, the whole way through 12th grade, they should stand up and respect this flag.
Yeah.
If I have the ability to influence that happening in our schools, you know, how can you, I don't know how many of you have ever gone to Arlington National Cemetery. If you haven't gone, go. And you know what? I'm going to tell you something else, something you're not hearing and seeing. Our president is standing tall against a dictator in North Korea. And one of the most moving pictures that I have seen just in the last week was all of the remains with this flag and other flags draped on the remains that came in from Hawaii. And President Trump asked Vice President Pence to go and greet those remains. I'm very proud of President Trump, and I'm very proud of Vice President Pence for recognizing those men and women in the remains, and they should be honored. I don't see it on the news at all.
No.
Okay? We've come to a very bad place. The fact that you're here, thank you. And that's why you are one of many reasons, and all of you in this reason, this is why I'm running for governor. We can do better.
Both of my parents immigrated from Greece legally. My father came here, worked in the early 60s, went back and got my mother. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm proud to be an American. I mean, that's it. Everybody should be proud. Everybody should be
You have to understand the scope of the battle that we're in. It used to be we fought against whether we would have higher taxes or welfare reform. Now it's the left has to finally admit that they don't like the principles upon which the country was founded. And that's where we are. Barack Obama brought it there. They now feel it's okay to denigrate the Constitution and the founders and the founding and our principles. So you're here, you get it. Just to give you an idea of the scope of what we're in, we walked out of the Union League a few weeks ago and Vice President Pence was there and Scott Martin, Senator Martin, was there with his 4 kids. And on the way in, they called me a racist and a bigot. And I'm married to an immigrant from Honduras. So the Philadelphia Inquirer called me a xenophobic. I didn't know what it meant. I looked it up. A rational fear of all things foreign or strange. So I'm a xenophobe. But as Scott Martin walked out with his 4 kids, they yelled at his 4 kids, "I hope you die before you can procreate." That's the battle we're in. There are hundreds of people lined up on the other end of that barricade. Now, you hear Scott here tonight, you all say you're going to vote. That is not enough. If you walk out of here tonight and you have not signed up for Brian Fitzpatrick or Scott Wagner or with the Republican Party of Bucks County, Marguerite Quinn, or the rest of the folks that are 4 open seats here in Bucks County, I don't know why you came here tonight. We need you to sign up. We need you to start volunteering now. Get trained on the RNC's app and how to use it. Be a volunteer for Scott Wagner. Because we're in a war. And we need your help.
But there's another thing that's happening, and I'm seeing it firsthand. I've been watching it, and I've seen it since I announced my candidacy last year. I have a lot of Democrats that are starting to come to my town hall meetings. Decent, conservative Democrats. I had a Democrat mother tell me that she lost her daughter to the heroin addiction. And, you know, so there are a lot of decent people. And one thing that Jeff and I are doing, we're going to be a little bit different. We have a very big tent. We are going to welcome everybody under our tent. We want to work with you. We'll be respectful. And listen, this is a very, very diverse state. A lot of diversity, a lot of great people. But if, you know, and it's amazing, and I've spent a lot of time, not just because we're near Philadelphia, but I've been in Menneson, and I've been in Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, I've been everywhere. But you know what's amazing? I've been in some pretty interesting neighborhoods in Philadelphia. I have been absolutely amazed by how open, respectful, and just willing to tell me about their home, their neighborhood. And again, but the fact that there are a lot of conservative Democrats that are coming out. Listen, there are Democrats in Bucks County and every county in Pennsylvania want to see their school taxes eliminated on their homes. So I think we're seeing something here. So it's big.
Scott, we're going to have the last question right here.
I appreciate the fact that you came out. My name is Bob Hickey. I'm from Northampton Township. One of the biggest problems that I see in the state that no one seems to mention is the $50 billion with a B of unfunded liabilities that the state has. And in a related item, what is your opinion on state employees, including our state representatives and senators, having a guaranteed pension as opposed to a 401 type style pension, or everything else that us in the private sector have to do based on how well we do, and they're guaranteed a pension no matter what?
Well, I come from the private sector, and I was, when I arrived in the Senate in 2014, there was a lot of discussion about, you know, implementing a 401k for program for all state employees, anybody who's in the state system. We sent a pension reform bill which would have put all new hires into a 401k system to Governor Wolf's desk, and he vetoed it. We need to go to a 401k program at a specific date for all new hires. And if it's January 1st of 2020 or whatever the date is, it would be for all new hires, and it would not affect people in the system. We just, constitutionally, we cannot do anything, and that's not my agenda. My agenda is to figure a way to fund the thing and make sure that we're getting the adequate returns. But the other thing you have to learn is in the current state system, a lot of teachers, for example, that are in the pension system, they don't vest for a long period of time. And you know, if you in the private sector, you vest within a year. But so there may be a young lady who has a teaching degree, for example, and decides to teach and teaches for 7 years, and her pension hasn't vested, so she decides to, you know, leave teaching to raise a family, start a family. And so what she's contributed, she gets, and a return on that. But whatever the state has put in, and that return doesn't go with her. So younger people today are realizing the mobility of a 401k program. And again, the millennials, there are statistics out there and stories that millennials will probably have maybe between 5 and 8 different jobs or careers in their lifetime. So that's the ability for them to move that 401k with. But absolutely, we need to do it. We're on a runway. We just, mathematically, we can't keep doing this. So I am absolutely in favor of new hires after a certain date going into a 401k program. How are we on time? Okay, well, we're getting down to 25 after. I'll tell you, let's take one more here in the front. This gentleman.
My name is Carlo Grilletto. I'm with Vice President of Pennsylvania for Self-Protection. And of course, sparked by the unfortunate shootings and massacres in schools, a lot of politicians are coming up with different laws that they know are not going to protect the children, but basically they think it's a political advantage. Most Democrats, even some Republicans. Now, I know how you stand on the Second Amendment because myself, Pennsilians for Self-Protection, Lehigh Valley Tea Party, we've been handing out flyers showing how you and Barletta feel, and you're close to 100% approval by the NRA. So, in fact, we just endorsed you today. And so, but actually, I'd like to hear from you as we get close to what you feel about the Second Amendment in Pennsylvania.
Well, number one, I have a concealed weapons permit. I'm a large supporter of the Second Amendment, and I have firearms. I'm not a hunter. Hunted when I was, a teenager. Maybe do some sporting clay shooting. But at the end of the day, when we talk about, weapons that are out there, I believe, and I will as governor, make sure that every single background check that's being done is being done thoroughly, and every I is dotted and every T is crossed. And we make sure that people that shouldn't have guns don't get guns, period. But here's the reality. We can attempt to confiscate and do all kinds with guns. Guess what? There's black markets everywhere. They'll come in, listen, with the amount of illegal drugs that are coming in from other countries, we'll just go from drugs to more firearms. But we have to crack down in Pennsylvania and make sure that everybody that is purchasing and transferring, every I is dotted and T is crossed. Period, zero tolerance. So we're going to wrap up. And Val, thank you for being here. And Jim, Lieutenant Governor Connell. So you'll always be Lieutenant Governor Connell. Thank you for being here. And listen, I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. We're getting close to the finish line. We've got really, we're just about, when I look at my calendar, September 1st is like right around the corner. So we really have, we have 10 weeks to go. And I'm all over the state. And I'm meeting a lot of people, and I understand the issues inside and out. And I have a great career. I have several companies, probably hundreds of people. I'm an entrepreneur. I've started my companies from scratch. I miss those companies. And I miss the people that work at those companies. But I made a decision to run for the Senate in 2014 for a reason, because I was fed up with, being treated by Harrisburg as many times a second-rate citizen and criminal. I mean, I've had sales tax audits, and everybody has routine audits. You have a business. I've had Department of Revenue come to 2 of my businesses over the years and find, in my waste company, they found, I think, $4,000 or $5,000 when they came in and did an audit, and that was over a 3 or 4 week period. And that had to do with items we purchased on the internet, books and clothing from another state. We didn't know, so we now have a software program in, and everything that's purchased has a purchase order, so we track it. But I tell you, finally, when the Department of Revenue left, after driving my poor accounting manager who since passed, driving her nuts for 6 weeks, you think that they ever for 1 second said, thank you for employing people, thank you for paying taxes. I do that to my customers every day. They don't love, Harrisburg doesn't love and hug its customers, and that's a problem. And when DEP comes out and visits somebody, they don't make an appointment, they show up. They are looking to find you doing something wrong so they can find you. So there's many reasons, but I served in the Senate. I expected Governor Corbett would get reelected, and I expect Jim would be, in another term. But that didn't happen, and Governor Wolf came along. This governor tried to jam a $4.5 billion tax increase down the throats of Pennsylvanians. I see the truck out there. Let me be crystal clear. I have no intention of taxing seniors' retirement income. Absolutely none. So this is a crock of bologna on that truck. But I'm going to tell you something. Governor Wolf had no trouble attempting to jam $4.5 billion through that would have taxed seniors in personal care homes and in nursing homes. An average nursing home stay could be $10,000 down in this area. So that'd be another $600. So let's talk about the guy that's in the governor's office. He didn't sign a budget for 3 years, okay? But he also talked about, didn't he talk about as he was driving around the state in his little blue Jeep, telling everybody, oh shucks, I'm a really good guy. Didn't he talk about property tax relief? We haven't seen any of that. And I can tell you his running mate, the Lieutenant Governor candidate, John Fetterman, is absolutely not interested in any type of property tax reform, relief, or whatever. But I'm standing in front of you tonight, pledging to you, if you vote for me and I become the next governor, I'm going to eliminate the school taxes on your home. And I mean it, I'm dead serious. But I see a lot of things in PA. I visited probably 70 or 80 farms over the last 2 or 3 years. I was at Ag Progress Days up in State College last week, and I ran into a gentleman who is a bank board manager, or he's bank board member of a bank that's up in northern PA. And he said, Scott, we have a really tough situation. We have 2 dairy farms that we are foreclosing on because the dairy industry is pounded by pricing. And you know how a lot of this started, as I'm learning? When we started mandating that we put skim milk in the schools, like skim chocolate milk. I don't drink skim chocolate milk. Okay? That's like chocolate milk. But I'm gonna tell you, there's nothing like whole chocolate milk, and if you have some really good, like from one of the family dairies, farm stores, you can get a buzz on it. That's really good. But you know what? If I had the opportunity as governor to influence the return of whole milk in the schools, I'm gonna do it. But it's, and the downward spiral on the dairy farms has been because of, you know, this promotion of skim milk. But I'm also in the waste business. And you know what's interesting? When students go through the line in school, the cafeteria staff they put the items on the tray. They put sandwiches, milk, everything on the tray. And guess what? If those students go to the table, a lot of times they don't touch the sandwiches, they don't open the milk, all that kind of stuff. But once it has left that station and it's on the tray, it cannot be used anywhere else. You want me to tell you where it goes? I have 15 school district contracts in around central PA. It all goes in a dumpster. You cannot believe the amount of unused, unopened food that's thrown away, and we have starving people. So there's a lot of things that I see that are going to change, but farmers, veterans, and seniors. I talk about, you know, homeless veterans, and you know, seniors' access to health care. My mother's 84 years old. My mother had a very serious stroke last year, and we have been very challenged with a 2.5-month hospital stay, personal care stay, you know, nursing home stay. My father's 87 years old, so we're living it, and I see it. My parents worked hard, and they deserve to have access to health care. They deserve, you know, not to pay school taxes because their kids have been gone for 4 years. But I'm telling you right now, what I see and the people I meet are motivating me to be the next governor of Pennsylvania. And that's what I want to do. And if I had an opportunity, if there's one thing I wish I could do, it would be have dinner with each and every one of you. But unfortunately, I don't have time to do that. And sit down and learn your story and tell me your ideas about, you know, what you see in Pennsylvania, learn about your families, learn about your kids, your grandkids. But you know, unfortunately, the time doesn't do it. But I'm around the state, and I want to do this. And I'm going to be 63 years old next month. And this is one thing you need to hear, and I'm going to be crystal clear on this. I have a beautiful wife, I have great kids. I'm not going to spend potentially up to 8 years and leave the governor's office at 71 and not have accomplished anything. I drive a garbage truck. And if there's a garbage truck coming down the road, folks, I wouldn't stand in front of it because it could be stopped in his pinwheel's truck heading to Harrisburg. So we're going to get things done in Harrisburg, but I also believe that the timing has never been better because the beauty about what I'm doing, I have relationships inside the Capitol with House and Senate members. And so, first day, I don't have to, after I'm sworn in, I don't have to go around and meet everybody because I already know everybody. So it's a huge advantage. Help me get to the governor's office, help Jeff Bartos, who is going to be a great partner for me. Help Jeff and I get in the government. Thank you for being here tonight.